There is a lot of Ripple updates hitting the market right now. And one of the biggest things that we are watching are the events piling up around Ripple. Obviously, yes, Ripple Swell is upcoming, which is one of the biggest events around crypto itself, not just from Ripple's side, obviously, but it is one of the biggest events from Ripple as well. That's upcoming in just roughly a month and a few days. But beyond that, there's also a few other events that are ongoing right now, which does include some key players from Ripple, like for an example, Stuart Alderoty, which we have here, excited to be back at FMQ later this week, hosted by GUFin Policy. Looking forward to joining the Innovating Through Cryptocurrency panel and discussing the evolving digital assets landscape. Now, what I find crazy about this is look at the individuals that are tied back to this event. Right off the rip, yes, we have the CLO of Ripple, but then we have the global head of market development from BlackRock. We also have the chief legal compliance and corporate affairs officer at Robinhood. CoinDesk is just a media player here, but then we also have the deputy managing director at the International Monetary Fund. It's so funny to me. Like, even when it comes to Ripple Swell, we've talked about this many times over as well, but David Schwartz is one that really kind of put a spotlight on this many years back because, again, this is an employee from Ripple, the CTO of Ripple. He said that Ripple Swell is essentially a banking conference held by, a blockchain-based company. And I feel like that's the time where we really kind of started to see that Ripple isn't just a blockchain-based company. They are a completely different monster in this space. And looking at some of these events, like for an example, this one where you have the IMF there, you have Robinhood, you have BlackRock. What is when we look at this, what is Ripple doing sitting next to Robinhood, BlackRock, and the IMF? This is why I keep saying that Ripple is on a different level. Now, on top of this, we also got another update, and that's from Casey Craddock, the UK CEO and managing director of UK and Europe Ripple. We have to coincide with President Trump's state visit to the UK last week. I had the honor of attending a roundtable in Downing Street alongside the UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves, US Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent, as well as representatives from a number of leading UK and US financial and crypto firms. There is a huge opportunity for closer cooperation between the US and UK on digital assets, a partnership which has the potential to set a template for international cooperation in our industry. As a US headquartered company with a major presence in the UK, Ripple is well placed to leverage its strong transatlantic footprint to further drive US-UK tech innovation and collaboration by supporting blockchain adoption in the UK. The UK has long been one of the world's leading global financial centers, and I truly believe that it has the opportunity to become a leading digital asset and innovation hub. Increased international collaboration between the UK and the US, including initiatives such as the Roundtable earlier this week, will further serve to unlock the full economic potential of blockchain technology in both countries. Ripple looks forward to contributing to the discussion as well. And when we think about this, right, the UK has always been a huge focus, even when it comes to like the FX market, because they are one to really kind of just dominate the FX market. I think that they move about roughly over $5 trillion per day in that $7.5 trillion market. So, the UK is definitely a big name here around finance. And Ripple has always been a big player within the UK market. I made a post regarding this back in, August of 2023. We're talking about 2 years ago now, but I made a full thread going down the rabbit hole of, Bank of America and Ripple, and it was their POC, right? Because again, this rabbit hole is pretty deep. There's a lot of information within this, but when we think about this, Ripple has been in the UK working with major players from the UK as well on, things related to faster payments, atomic settlement between two different currencies, And yes, that did involve XRP and the XRPL. But when we think about this, a lot of people say, oh, it's old news, it doesn't matter. But it's at a time where the UK is now racing towards regulating stablecoins, getting regulations out there to get, some sort of innovation thriving in the UK around digital currencies. It kind of reminds me back to that post from August 19th from the Digital Pound Foundation, which was titled, "The UK risk lagging in fintech if regulators don't act now." And this is from the CEO of Infin in The Banker on August 18th on the urgent need for pro-innovation regulation for stablecoins. What's funny about this is we just talked about, how I made this post, which, by the way, if you guys do want to go check this out, there is, I retweeted it over on X. It's also in the highlights tab on X as well. You guys can go ahead and look at it. I don't want to go through it and waste your guys' time because I've talked about it many times over in the last couple of years. But when we think about the rabbit hole here, it's not just about the Bank of England and Ripple POC. It's not just about the fact that Casey Craddock is in the UK or was in the UK during this roundtable regarding, collaboration between the US and the UK on digital assets. And it's also not just about how Ripple has an office. They've always been, working in the UK for years. It's not about all of that. It's also about the fact that just back in June, Ripple put out a post talking about at Ripple's UK Policy Summit earlier this year, one message was clear. The time to act is now. Recommendations for UK policymakers: build a growth-driven framework, lead on global standards, advance stablecoin adoption, and tackle tokenization barriers. It's crazy because it feels as if Ripple is that major decision maker around what these players do with crypto and digital assets. I kind of feel as if Ripple is a big enabler of a lot of what we're seeing right now when it comes to crypto. A lot of people will say, no, Ripple's not that big of a name. No, Ripple doesn't have that much pull. But you got to remember that Ripple is one of the first players that were ISO 20022 compatible, right? Or compliant, I should say. That was built around blockchain tech. Also, Ripple was one of the first blockchain-based companies meeting with the IMF, meeting with the BIS, meeting with all of these central bankers. Also, Ripple is working with the BIS on the CPMI group. I mean, like I said, Ripple is not just your typical blockchain-based company. A lot of people have this, weird idea around Ripple, and I feel like it pertains back to the Bitcoin Maxi group, where they're just like, oh yeah, Ripple is just another blockchain-based company that's, really not doing much for the space. They're selling XRP, so XRP is a scam, and Ripple is building a Ponzi scheme. Like, that's all we've been hearing for the last couple years. But when we look at the facts here, Ripple is on a completely different level. Ripple is operating at, a speed that almost none of these players in the space can really catch up to. But that's because Ripple has also been operating for well over a decade plus within this space, working with these big names. But also we go back to all of the acquisitions, right? So we go over the Hidden Road one, which was huge, right? Hidden Road was a big one. We talked about it. We talked about how it's much bigger than what we were really kind of being led on to believe. I feel like a lot of these acquisitions are, even the one with Rail, right? Which we've talked about the one with Rail. Again, another incredible partnership, or I should say acquisition and announcement that really opened up the door for a lot of opportunities around RLUSD, but also even XRP. And then also the most recent one, which was the announcement of the partnership with Securitize. I think that this partnership is much bigger than we are thinking, okay? I broke this fully down. I talked about all of the information that was within this article, but there's two video clips that I want to play, and it's from the CEO of Securitize. Yes, Carlos Domingo, the CEO, discussed with the Roll-Up Co. the significance of integrating Ripple RLUSD liquidity with BlackRock's Build and Vanex V-Bill. Big shout out to Bank XRP for this. Listen closely.
Yeah, Carlos. So maybe you can break down this announcement today for us. You guys have rolled this out with Van Eck. Kind of what's the story behind this and why is this important for Securitize?
One of the issues with capital markets is that the dollar, the rails for the dollars and the rails for the securities are disconnected. So one of the huge advantages of tokenization is that you bring within the same ledger technology tokenized securities and tokenized dollars. So for us being the largest issuer of tokenized securities, we need to partner with the largest issuers of tokenized dollars, because that's how we bring the two worlds together and provide liquidity for our assets, which is hugely important to make them more useful for people on chain, being able to then compose them better with DeFi that needs liquidation, use them as collateral for trading. In case the collateral needs to get liquidated, you need to exit into stable coins, etc. So as you know, Ripple, one of the largest companies in the space, launched its own stable coin, I believe it was like 6 months ago or something like that, like pretty recently.
Yep.
But it's been pretty remarkable how big it has become so quickly. So obviously Ripple is a company very familiar to us. I don't know if people are aware of it, but they invested in our company in 2018, and we've always been talking to them. But more recently, I think Ripple has started like kind of doing some movements to get closer to our space. They, as you know, launched a custody product. Now they bought a prime broker, and now they launched a stable coin. So that led to the discussions of why don't we use RLUSD as one of the liquidity layers for RWAs, and then the announcement today that we're going to start that with the two tokenized treasury funds that we have, BUIDL from BlackRock and VBIL from Van Eck. Well, they will have instant on-chain liquidity options into RLUSD.
And see, this is something that's very interesting because I feel as if, yeah, right, we have the numbers in front of us. We have the names in front of us as well. The main thing that I'm looking at with all of these acquisitions, almost every single one of these acquisitions, regardless of if it's even the one with Rail for stablecoin payments, right? The main thing that we're looking at is the use cases, what this is going to enable. The main thing that we're looking at through all of this is institutional adoption. Almost every single move that Ripple has been making so far in the last 12 months has been to enable institutional grade adoption. Even the one with Securitize, this is all based around institutional assets. The first thing that we see here is how do you unlock real-time liquidity for institutional assets? And then we also have over here, big shout out to Subjective Views. This is another one with Carlos Domingo. This is talking tokenization. And we have two of the largest tokenized treasury funds gain 24/7 instant exchange via RLUSD.
There is the breaking news that I want to get into with you. Ripple and Securitize are enabling Ripple's stablecoin RLUSD for smart contract functionality for BlackRock's BUIDL and Van Eck's VBIL. Let's talk about it. What does this integration allow BUIDL and VBIL holders to do? Why does it matter?
When Ripple invested in our company, they used to tell us, today we focus on cross-border payments, but one day we want to do more things, and tokenization is something one day we want to get into. And that has taken many, many years to happen. But if you look at their progression the last couple of years, they've, bought a custody business, so they do custody now. They have a prime brokerage business, and they just recently launched their own stablecoin. So it's a natural next step for them to get into tokenization, and in this case, they're doing it through supporting us as a liquidity provider using the new stablecoin RLUSD. So as soon as this gets announced, we're going to have basically a provision of RLUSD on-chain where people will be able to take either BUIDL or VBIL and will be able to basically liquidate it against to get liquidity instantly without having to wait for market hours to be able to kind of do the TradFi liquidation of the treasuries.
And was that not possible prior?
It was possible with other stablecoins, but in a less effective way. And then at the end of the day, we need to have as much liquidity as possible, and we need to have as much variety of stablecoins as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And the main thing here is liquidity, right? So again, I love the fact that Carlos Domingo also mentioned the fact that Ripple did come to them and say, hey, listen, we think that, payments and stuff, cross-border payments, it's great, but we want to be more than that at some point in time. And they were talking about tokenization before it was even a huge thing. Because again, Ripple understands this market inside and out. They understand exactly what's happening. They understand exactly what's going to be happening because again, Ripple is a big enabler. I feel as if almost all of this was by plan. Almost everything has been planned. All the way down to even the lawsuit. I feel like the lawsuit was kind of planned ahead of time. I think that, most of the things that we saw so far around crypto was all to really kind of accelerate this space to get the green light so that we could adopt it and utilize the tech in a big way and just kind of accelerate the time frame. Obviously, yeah, it's a lot of speculation, but I just kind of feel as if all of this has always been by plan. I mean, what's the chances that Ripple and the digital asset that they utilize gets sued out of all of the other cryptocurrencies in this market? And it's a company that's, meeting with all of these central bankers, meeting with all of these global banking organizations like the IMF, the BIS. I really don't believe it. So when we think about all these moves that are being made now, just like Carlos Domingo said in the previous video, Ripple has all of these things. They have custody, they have the stablecoin, they have, this tokenization platform that they're building. Also, they're building institutional DeFi. They're basically building this platform around the XRP ledger and XRP, which is coming soon. We talked about it. Like almost everything Ripple has right now is an umbrella, right? It's an umbrella for institutional grade adoption at scale around DeFi, around payments, anything that these institutional players want to tap into. So when we think about this, yeah, I feel as if everything has been by plan. These moves are much bigger than we are being told. I think that a lot of people are going to be surprised by what happens in the coming weeks and months down the road, because again, we're only going to see the space grow more and more. We're only going to see institutional grade adoption and focus heat up more and more as well. And, during that time, I really do think that companies like Ripple are going to be the ones in the driver's seat. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.